Toro lawnmowers are supposed to be good, at least that's according to how they're priced. They certainly are not the most expensive ones unless you're talking about their commercial equipment, but you never say that their residential lineup was cheap either. Unfortunately, this mower is only a couple of years old and is not held up very well, but is that the fault of the machine or the person who owned it? So today, we're going to find out who's really at fault. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this Toro lawnmower. And the problem is that we got the engine running, however, it's not running very well. And it's really tough to start, which makes it pretty much unsellable, and all that from a mower that's only 3 seasons old. Now, I'm going to try and repair this lawnmower, but yours might be different, so this might not work on yours. So if things are not working out for you, like in the video, please ask about it, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. Now, before we get too far into this project, I'm going to take note of all the stickers that I can find. That way, if we need to order new parts, we'll have the information we need to get the right ones. So we're going to pick up right from where we left off in the last video, and if you need to get caught up, there should be links to it on the screen. Now, the first place we want to look at with an engine that's running this poorly is of course the carb. That's when you're going to notice that this airbox is not sitting correctly to its mount, meaning something is not aligned correctly. Now, that could be just an issue with some of the fasteners for the airbox, but it could easily be something else too. Now, if you saw the last video, I had a tough time starting the engine, which could possibly be related to the choke system. Now, this carb has an automatic choke system, meaning the user doesn't have to get involved for it to work. And on this one, when the governor linkage moves to regulate the engine speed, it should bypass the choke as well. Also, when the engine gets hot, the thermostat will move to bypass the choke. But this is when we see our first problem. As I move the linkage, the choke is not opening. And that's because the lever was installed in the wrong position. It should be behind the post for the choke and not in front of it. And as you can see, with the lever in the front, it's now interfering with the bypass, and that's why the engine is not running correctly, at least in theory. While we're here, we can also see that the carb is not sitting well on the intake pipe, proving that the problem with the airbox being crooked is related to the carb instead. The problem though is that even if I try and push the carb onto the intake pipe, it still won't budge. So at first, I thought the fuel line being short might be the cause. However, if you look a little bit further, the problem is a bit more complex. Now, to remove the carb, you don't have to worry about the choke bypass linkage. And instead, you can simply pry the lever off its post on the carb with a small flathead. After that, carefully move the carb away from the engine and then turn the carb to disconnect the last linkage. And as you can tell, both ends of the linkages seem to be a bit bent out of shape, probably because I didn't know how to disconnect them. Also, both the O-ring and the white plastic retainer have both come off the back of the carb and were left on the intake pipe. We'll need to carefully remove them, that way we can put them back onto the carb later on. But there's just one major problem though. It turns out that there's already an O-ring on the back of the carb. So here's what I think happened. I think this carb is not the original one, and when it was replaced, this was done on purpose. I couldn't even guess as to what the reasoning was for it, but your guess is as good as mine. Now, I'm not sure when the carb was replaced, so I'm going to open it and take a look around, and what we find is rather interesting. I don't see any debris at the bottom of the bowl, which is good news. Also, the main jet looks to be clear as well. And even though it looks to be clear, we're going to make sure that it is here in a bit. Now, because I think the fuel line might be a bit short, I'm going to take it off, and that way we can replace it later on. Next, I'll use my carb cleaning wires to make sure the opening in the jet is as clear as possible. This would also be the time to make the jet a little bit larger, but I don't see a need for it at the moment. Now, because of how clean this carb looks, I'm not going to go any further with it, but you're welcome to go the full distance if you want to. We'll then carefully replace the bowl, making sure that it looks the same all the way around it before installing the fasteners. And if you don't check, it could cause the bowl to be crooked, which will then lead to a fuel leak, which is not good. The last thing we need to do with the carb is to install the O-ring and its plastic retainer. Now, these two parts are the only things on the back of the carb to help seal it to the engine. And if there is an air leak there, it could cause the engine to run poorly. Next, I'll replace the fuel line with this one from a carb kit from a different project. Just be very careful on which fuel line you choose to put on this style of carb. The reason why is because it's so short that a stout fuel line would be much harder to use. Now, you can try to install the fuel line after the carb has been installed, but I find it just a bit easier to do it now. Try not to push the carb all the way onto the intake pipe, instead let the airbox determine its location. If the carb is too far back and the airbox pulls the carb away from the engine, it could pull out the O-ring and cause an air leak. I really do like the simplicity of this design because it makes installation a lot faster. However, there are a couple of things you need to watch out for too. One of the biggest items to watch out for is of course what happened to this one, which is making sure the choke lever is installed in the correct location behind the post for the choke. Now, automatic choking systems work well, but when one part of the system fails because of neglect or because the user makes a mistake, the system can then work against you. If you're not sure how it works but still want to work on it, then I'd recommend that you watch repair videos ahead of time. Otherwise, I get a friend to help out with the repair, that way things like this won't happen. Now, getting advice from other sources will help out a lot, but having someone there to help out is a lot more effective. Unfortunately, I don't think that was the case for this poor mower, as it looks like a lot of small mistakes were made on it. But when you combine all those little mistakes, it had a huge impact as a whole. We'll then button up the underside of the mowing deck, starting with the vortex system, and then followed by the sharpening and balancing of the blade. Now, the blade can be a little bit out of balance, and that's because it's difficult to be perfect, but the least you want to do is make sure that it's not too far out of balance. A blade that's out of balance can affect the wear and tear on the engine, and in the later project, you're going to see what can happen to it. Now, the next part is kind of interesting, and you'll see what I mean. I'll start by taking off the wheels, that way we can service them. Now, over time, the bolts for the wheels can build up with dirt and other stuff, making them tough to spin on. You can use whatever method you want to clean them, just so long as they get clean before you add your lubricant to them. You also have the option to not add a lube if you don't want to. That is your choice, and I can respect that. Just to let you know that once you start adding a lubricant to the bolts, you'll have to keep up a cycle of cleaning and applying that lube from then on. That's why some would choose not to add any at all, but you still need to clean them once in a while. Now, while the wheels are off the mower, it'd be a good idea to also apply lubricant to the ends of the drive shaft to keep them from wearing out. So here's the interesting part. I had to remove the wheels just so I had the room to replace the missing fasteners that had fallen out over time. Now, these fasteners will loosen over time and eventually fall out if you don't check them once in a while, which can be extremely dangerous considering these help to secure the rear part of the mower. Luckily, I had a parts mower on hand and it didn't cost me anything to do this. But if you had to replace these with OEM fasteners, just get ready to pay a lot of money for them. Once I've replaced the missing screws and checked that the others weren't loose, we'll then apply lubricant to the wheel bolts and then install them. You can use whatever lubricant you want, you don't have to use what I'm using, so if you want to use WD-40, be my guest, some lube is better than none at all. Now, since we opened the carb to inspect it, it's a good idea to only pour in a small amount of fuel into the tank. That way, if the carb starts leaking, you won't have to deal with a full tank of fuel. Now, this air filter isn't that bad, so I'll use it during my testing, but I do plan on replacing it later on with a new one. The next part is more of a complaint than a real problem, and it has to do with the self-propelled handle. Over time, the handle will stop returning to a neutral position and get hung up about 80% of the way. Most of this is because of dirt getting inside the handle, which can be taken care of with a good cleaning. But the other part is the return spring getting weaker over time. Now, to deal with this, I'm going to use a temporary fix by bending the end of the spring to get more power from it. You can of course just buy a new spring, but replacing that spring can be really tricky unless you've seen how I've done it before. Once the modified spring is connected again and I've cleared the dirt from the handle, it's now working a whole lot better. Like I said, it's more of a gripe than anything, but it's now a whole lot easier to use as well. We'll talk about what just happened, but first, let's see how it starts back up when there's some heat in the engine. So I was only interested in making sure that it started back up, however, we now need to talk about how it's running. Well, it's running a whole lot better than before, however, it's not smooth. Even after increasing the engine speed, the engine didn't get that much better, so what's causing it to miss like it is? Remember that in the last video on this mower, we already checked the valve clearances and also the spark plug. And even though I didn't do a compression test, I don't believe the engine is worn out because a worn engine is also a lot harder to start, which isn't the case here. But after seeing how bad the oil was, I ended up doing an engine flush as well. And with how much debris was in the flush, it might be related to our problem, and I might have to do a compression test just to be sure. Now, if you have an idea as to the reason why you think it might be running like this, then I'd be glad to hear it. But until then, this one's going to have to stay around for quite a while until we find out. Unfortunately, most of the problems with this mower seem to have been from neglect by the user and also a lot of small mistakes during repairs, which is understandable. You can't possibly know everything, but you can get around this fact by asking for help or asking for some advice, neither of which was done here. Now, I really do like Toro products. In fact, I push them as much as I can. However, their recent offerings seem to be a lot lower in quality than the stuff from only a decade ago. Now, as for this one, I will tell you that I did eventually figure out why it was running the way that it was. And after making a small adjustment, I got it running a whole lot better. However, that's a video for a different day. So my question is, after seeing this video and hearing my opinion about this mower, would you ever consider buying a new or slightly used version of it? If it was me, I'd avoid the newer ones and instead get one that was about 8 years old for a fraction of the price, but then again, that's just me.
Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.